Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up earlier today with Alexandra Woodyer-Sharon. She's the CEO of newly formed Empress Royalty. We talked to her about the money raised recently, the portfolio of companies that they have and which stage of development they are at and when can we expect cash flow. So if you want our thoughts and opinions on her, the company, their plans, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club. Where you can also find detailed company reports and analysis. There's commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of companies, commodities, including royalties. Training courses on there to help you with your diligence process and research. We've also got summaries of interviews that we've done, in fact, all of the interviews that we've done, just to save you some time because we know you're busy. And if you want to join a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, safe, friendly environment, you can go and join them at cruxinvestor.com/club. I think you'll like it. And if you could leave us your thoughts below, we'll get back to absolutely everyone. Give us a like as well. We appreciate it. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about with Alexandra today, take a look in the description below. Alexandra, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. End of the week. I'm looking forward to a big bottle of red wine, if I'm honest. I've made it through. What about you?
Yeah, no, definitely looking forward to it. It's been a long week, but I'm a couple hours behind you, so I've got a little while to wait.
I'll be thinking of you. Well, I appreciate you coming on. So where in the world are you?
In Vancouver.
Right. Okay.
I've got a little bit of almost today.
Lovely. Yeah, same here, bizarrely. We seem to match weather conditions. Well, look, first time we've spoken or met, and I've not heard this story before, it's probably not surprising because it's a new story. So why don't you kick us off with a 1-minute overview and I'll pick it up from there.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Empress, we are a new precious metals royalty and streaming creation company. We started trading on the tsx-v in December and in the OTC in February. We currently have a portfolio of 14 assets, and we're looking to expand that out by investing in cash-generating investments in gold and silver.
Beautiful, 14 assets. Okay, everyone got very excited after you listed. Share price went nuts. Yeah. And it's come back down to normal levels again. So what were people expecting?
You know, we were a private company. We just basically started this and sort of executing on our plan in July. We did a financing in late October, and that paper had a 4-month hold. And then we started trading, obviously, December 29th. And I think that's kind of what happened with the share price is that paper all became free trading a couple of weeks ago. Okay.
So nothing untoward, no expectation of great things, which didn't manifest.
No, we haven't even, we're just getting started and we're delivering so far everything we've said.
Brilliant. Okay. So can we just talk about you? So have you been in the royalty game before? How many royalty transactions have you transacted?
So my background is I'm ex-PricewaterhouseCoopers. I then started at Endeavour Financial as an analyst. Endeavour Financial being a global mining finance investment banking house out of the UK in Vancouver. So I started with them as an analyst, worked my way up the ranks, became director of structured finance, completed $1.5 billion of transactions. And then, teamed up with Endeavour again to create Empress. They've obviously got vast experience in the royalty space. And that's kind of what really manifested and created the vision for Empress, was that Endeavour was seeing they looked at a lot of the larger deals they put into financing, and they were working with the bigger streaming and royalty companies doing $100 million, $150 million, and recognized the smaller side of the market wasn't being serviced. So that's why we created Empress.
Right.
We'll get into that.
But tell me this, so they weren't actually in the royalty and streaming business. They were doing structured finance, and appreciate that I know them from London. But, have they transacted, royalty deals themselves, or have they just been associated with?
They've been the financial advisors on them and structured them, arranged them, put them together as part of a whole financing package. I mean, that's the real thing, is there's a lot of experience. So they know what the current streaming royalty terms are by the big companies, and we're able to apply that to the smaller side of the market, where there's a lot of more opportunity.
Right. And where's the technical expertise come from?
We've got access to geologists, engineers, mining analysts, financial cash flow modelers, all of that through Endeavour, as well as through Ascendo's team, which I can talk, my second partner. So we've got access to a lot of engineers and geologists on the technical aspects of the projects.
Right, and they're all in-house, but at Endeavour.
Endeavor or Ascendo, yeah. I also have my VP Americas, Rich has been fantastic. He's a mining engineer. So we have a lot of technical eyes looking at stuff.
Okay, so, and tell us a little bit more about the team within Empress, please, because I just want to understand the makeup first, and if you don't mind.
Yeah. So the board, I've got 3 strategic partners. There's Endeavor Financial, Terra, and Ascendo. David Rhodes from Endeavor is on our board. Jeremy Bond from Terra is also on our board. And then we work closely with the Endeavor team and the Ascendo team to execute on deals. In-house, I have some great corporate governance specialists, myself, and then Rich, who's a mining engineer, investment banker by background as well, on the team. We're a young company too. I mean, it's important to note we're just starting to build, and we're able to leverage that and build quickly with our relationships.
No, I get that, but there's also a lot of royalty companies coming into the space at the moment because royalties are popular, right? And I don't want it to be a case of it's like, well, lots of people jumping on the bandwagon, but lots of people are jumping on the bandwagon. So I'm trying to work out who's got what differentiators. So how would you say that you are different from the rest?
We look at things, I think, slightly different. The royalty space, I think everyone lumps us all into one pot. There's the early stage exploration companies, royalty companies, the project generators. There's the royalty companies that are out there doing third-party acquisitions, or royalty trading companies where they're trading the paper. They're not working with the company necessarily. And then there's the other side of it, which we're more into, which is the creation. So that's creating financing solutions to either get a mine into production or to expand upon what they have. So that, I think, you need to understand, I think people need to understand the differentiators in the royalty space, and that we're on the creation origination side. And then we're uniquely positioned to do that and get access to deal flow with the companies because of our partnerships. I've got these global networks that are bringing me deals, and we're focused on the cash production side of it.
Talk to me about the creation origination side, because I want to make sure I'm getting the terminology right, because people talk about that in the context of literally going out in a field and marking up land packages, and that's creation and origination, and they kind of flip the royalties on those. But you're coming from a technical background, and we used to use the same phrases there. Yeah. Creation and origination. So what are you talking about?
No, I'm trying to work at a visual representation that we can push out to people so they can understand the difference. But there's the generation. So it's the flagging, it's going out there and getting their 1% and selling the project on. And that's early stage. And I think there's some great examples of those types of royalty companies. And then once someone's got the 1% royalty paper, somebody else will buy it off of them for a higher price in the future because they feel there's value as the project progresses through its own stages. The origination or creation, which we are, is where there's a project that needs, say, $10 million to get in production, and they're able to get a bit of debt, a little bit of equity, and then they need $1 or $2 million extra. They will sell us a royalty on the project, or we'll do a stream. And we create what fits with the rest of their financing package so they can still be successful in production, meet what they need to, and then we can get the returns that we need.
Great. So you're not a pure play royalty and streaming company in that sense, right? Because you're talking about structured finance bundled in.
Great question. I can see that being a little confusing there. We are a pure royalty and streaming company. So that's how we make our investments. And then we have partners or other financing groups that would be providing the debt or the equity or the other components. There are some cases where we are the only ones funding the project or when it's expanding a project. So then we would provide, a $2.5 million gold stream that would, increase someone's production by a third.
Right. But again, I'm trying to be clear. So you're working more closely with the equity or debt component and creating that sort of structuring around at the same time? Or are you saying you sit outside of the equity debt element and you're coming in as a conventional royalty and streamer might?
We are a conventional royalty and streaming company. We're not buying them, we're creating them, but we are doing the traditional royalty and streaming model. We're not putting equity into companies. We're not providing debt to companies. We are a pure royalty and streaming company working full stop. And then we work alongside other groups that can help support the project to get there. We don't need that. It's just we add that added value to my companies.
Got it. I just want to be clear because the multiples are different for a royalty company compared to, right? Just wanted to make sure everyone understood that. So let's talk about those 14 assets. There's a few press releases come out recently. Can you kind of break down the portfolio for us, if you don't mind, in terms of revenue, near-term revenue, and the rest?
Yeah. So currently we have 14 investments, and when we look at our portfolio, we look at our current investments, we look at our investments in progress, and then we look at our pipeline. So just talking first about our investments in progress, sorry, not investments, but our actual portfolio. We have 13 early stage gold exploration projects, which we picked up through our spin out to become a company in July. Those are all in Canada, but they're very early stage. Most recent, we did one in November, the Pinos Candelaria project. This was a $1.5 million investment for a 1% royalty on their project in Zacatecas, Mexico. That project should be in production in Q1 2022. So that'll bring revenue in then. So that's what we currently have. We've signed a royalty agreement with MMP for a project in Mozambique. This is going to be a $2 million investment. We're just waiting for the final registration of papers to happen on this. And this won't be in production this year. So this would bring revenue into Empress towards the end of 2021. And that's about $1 million a year when that one's fully online. And then we're working closely with Telson Mining to provide them a $5 million silver stream on the Talahuetra project in Durango, Mexico. And that one should be production at the end of this year, beginning of next. And that brings roughly $3 million of revenue into the company, US. Both of those are US. Those are ones that are, we've got what we have. Those are investments in progress. I've got exclusivity in another two that are already in production in Peru and Kenya. And then we have our pipeline of opportunities that we're looking at. It's early stage for Empress. We really just got out of the gates in July. And then as a public company, we've only been trading for 3 months.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to the near-term cash flows, because ultimately that's what you're going to be judged on, right? So you're obviously helping out where you can. What else are those companies needing to get in place to be able to ensure that they get into production?
In all three cases, if you look at the ones that'll be the nearest term cash production for us, all three cases, all permits are in place. In the case two of them, in case of two of them, they're both sort of already been, they're half built. So it's just finishing them off. So yeah, everything's ready to go. We don't foresee any issues with these getting into production.
Okay. And on those, what's the gold equivalent, royalty linked reserve or resource? Are your royalties 100% of the mineable asset?
And they're slightly different each one. So Pinos project and Candelaria's project, we have a 1% royalty in the entire project. This project, the mine life on that is currently 7 years. And that's based upon one vein out of 7 on this huge package. So we expect that one to get a lot more interesting, a lot sexier as they develop that out, as Candelaria looks at what they're doing there. With the Manica project, that's the one in Mozambique, that we're going to do the $2 million investment into. That currently has a 3-year mine life plan on it. And that's because the company's only looked at one of the deposits. There's a potential for 3 more additional satellite deposits nearby. So we expect that one to have a longer term as well. And then with Telson, that's a stream that we're doing. The Manica, we have the full 1.25% royalty. And then with Telson, it's a 10-year silver stream, or up to a certain amount of ounces, 1.25 million. So obviously it's a different structure there.
Right. Okay. And what's the expectation with each of those in terms of the amount of drilling that it's going to do to expand out those resources, to extend those life of mine? Because they're short. It's not necessarily a bad thing always, but it's better if there's some sort of extension component to this.
We in all the cases we're looking at, we expect there to be expansion cases and then building it out. That's the intention of all the management groups. Obviously one needs a little bit of time and money to get that done, and part of in the cases where we're providing the money will allow them to do that. We're very much about the extension and the expansion of production.
Right. Okay.
As is everyone.
Sure. But what about, so at the moment, there's no kind of planned drill program. We don't know how many meters are going to be drilled out in each of those, in addition to what you already know about.
In all three cases, the companies do have plans to expand them out in terms of defined plans. I think with Candelaria, that's going to have a very long life and a lot further expansion on that. And if you look just at Candelaria's news and what they're putting out, I think you'll be able to see that some really exciting stuff happening with the company. And again, the same with Telson and what they're going to be able to do now that we've been able to get them a fully financed solution.
Are all these investments public or some private?
If we talk about just the initial three, two of those are public companies and one is a private company, the one in Mozambique.
Does that make getting information harder?
No, there's been a long relationship with the project in Mozambique with the management, a long relationship with Endeavour, and they've been amazing to work with. And we've been able to do a 43-101 on it and get all the technical information that we need, and the monthly reporting and all of that. That's all been established. So that's important to us. We're not going to go in where we can't get. If it's a private company, we need to make sure we can get the right kind of disclosure that we need, and the right kind of ability to see what's happening there.
But the accountability is harder, especially in slightly more eclectic jurisdictions, right?
Yeah, we're not going into any jurisdiction that we haven't been before, and that's important to us. Endeavour has had extensive global experience in Africa as well as South America, obviously with Ascendo Banco. We have a great network and knowledge of what's happening there. But we're not going into anywhere that we don't know how to operate in, that we haven't had the experience, that we need to know the governments will work with us. And then we have that comfort level there. But yeah, definitely a little bit more exotic countries, but that's based upon our experience.
Right. And do you think that makes the market nervous? Because, typical royalty stream, precious metals, North America, easy. The rest of it, so hard.
I think investors have a choice. We're going to get better returns, right? We're going into higher risk, higher return. It's obviously mitigated and structured in a way that makes sense. We're not cowboys. So everything is very much structured. We've got security in some cases over certain things that you wouldn't traditionally have. But yeah, it's you get better returns. And that's what we're looking for.
Okay. So you've talked about need for cash flows. All royalty companies, streaming companies talk about need for cash flows. So, and sustainability of that cash flow is another thing. So if you've kind of got short life of mine, it's one of them 3 years. I'm interested in understanding about your model for making sure that there's not just sustained cash flow, but growth profile to that too. So what are you going to be doing with some of these like medium term type return projects?
If you look at just, with the Monaco one and the Mozambique one, where it's, a $2 million investment, it gives us, $1 million a year revenue. So it's paid back within 2 years, if not faster. And then there's obviously a huge extension on that. So these are long-term investments. We're not looking for, we've been very specific about looking for ones that are very close to production or ones that are already in production and expanding on what they have. Like the one I'm looking at in Peru, where it's for a $10 million investment, I'm able to double their production. And then it's a combination of a stream and royalty, where the stream goes for a certain period of time, and then I get a 1% royalty for the life of mine. And you talk to those guys, they believe they're going to be in production for at least 30 years. Obviously, there's certain restrictions we have with reporting and making sure we're following the rules on that of how long the mine life is. But we believe they all have very long-term views of doing it. And the real focus for us is the revenue generation. We want revenue coming into Empress. That's where we see the multiples. That's where you see the lift in the share price. That's where you see the long-term plan, and get to a point where we can establish a dividend policy.
Right. You mentioned earlier that you've kind of got a network which allows you to get access to certain investments, assets, which is great. And everyone's got to have something unique about them. Some people have databases. Some people have worked in countries with continents for a long time. They can do that. I'm kind of interested in your ability to get good deals that you don't overpay for, because again, when you're starting out, the temptation is I've got to get a deal done. I've got to get noticed. I've got to get the scale to get noticed. How do you go about measuring what is and is not a good deal, not just technically but financially?
It starts with the people. It really does. So we're getting into relation, like it's through our network, Endeavor, Terra, and Ascendo, that we're getting access to deal flow. And these are groups that we've worked with before. So we know the management team. That's obviously critical in any type of investment you make. And then through our technical experts, we're able to figure out what the projects that work and don't work, and really kick them around and make sure that the economics make sense. And for us, we're not getting in a competitive bid process. We're sourcing our own deals, and that's with groups that we know, hey, you've got a project and if you had a bit of extra cash, you could double it. Are you interested? And then being flexible around the other financing components they have and the long-term desires that they have to grow their company as well.
Right. But you currently, you just raised some money, $15 million. So congratulations on that. It gives you some optionality. That says to me that you see most of the growth profile of this company coming from transactions rather than organic, because it's early days. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be getting these mines into production, expanding on them, paying hard cash for them, and then getting hard cash back.
Right. Okay. $15 million. You really went for it, given your market cap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, as we mentioned, we've got Manica, we've got the Talahuero project that we want to fully fund. And then we're just seeing these amazing opportunities. Again, for $10 million, I can double a gold mine production in Peru. For $2.5 million, I can increase production on a project in Kenya by a third. So we're seeing these things that bring immediate revenue into Empress, and that's how we wanted to be able to deploy the capital. There are a lot of other ones I'm looking at in my pipeline that might advance as well. I don't want to go out and sit on the big treasury of cash. It'll all be deployed very quickly into these opportunities so that we can start showing and delivering and bringing revenue into Empress.
Right. And when do you think there will be any opportunity for organic growth to come into the growth story?
I think that's going to happen with the projects that we already have. Just look at Candelaria. I think in terms of what their growth plans are for the Pinos project, it'll expand there. So there's definitely that element that we have at Empress. We believe in the management groups that we're investing in and what the potential they have.
Right. And so, but nothing in the next couple of years. It's unlikely.
No, I think it'll definitely be in shorter order than that.
Right. Okay. So if we look at all the other players out there saying the same stuff, do you and the way you're describing your growth profile is the way that other people describe themselves? I come back to that question of what's going to give you the edge, or is it a case of, do you know what, in this environment, all royalty companies will do okay, so it's fine?
I know it's in the last year, it felt like every 2 weeks a new royalty company was popping up. And again, and kind of what I was talking about earlier, there's different types of royalty companies. It's important. There's different commodities that royalty companies invest in. We are pure gold and silver. We're not diluting that in with anything else. We are a precious metals royalty and streaming company. That's important to us. That's where we see the multiples in the industry. Access to deal flow. And it's very much revenue focused. So, other ones, again, as you're saying, are looking for that longer term growth, but they're not getting near revenue. So for us, it's our access to deal flow through our strategic partners. It's the creation aspect. It's the production stage projects that we're looking at that bring revenue into Empress, and the fact that we're looking at pure precious metals and globally.
Right. Okay. And what's the end game?
To build this company out, to keep repeating the model. We've got a great model, we've got great pipeline, and just to keep building the portfolio and having the diversification there. When you're getting the kind of numbers that I'm getting on some of these deals, repeat the formula. We're demonstrating now that we can do it, and we're seeing opportunity to repeat this, and we're just going to keep going through and become the leading streaming and royalty company in the smaller mid-sized market for mining companies that want that $1 to $10 to $20 million financing to get into production.
Oh, I don't think people want to stay small. People, once you get there, you start talking about bigger deals. That's the name of the game, right?
But there's a great spot of the $1 to $10 million range that makes sense. And we're able to structure that with the team that we have. And you're able to get fantastic returns there. I'd rather have diversification in the portfolio and multiple investments than having some huge, big, chunky ones.
Right. So how do people value you going forward? Because again, we look at the market, and I think it's very hard for us poor family offices and retail guys to work out how you value a company, because you've got so many assets, so many investments. We're not going to go through and study each one and work out if you guys are telling us the truth or correct in your assumptions or your forecasts. So how do we know that you're the one we should be buying into, not the guy down the road?
I think investors have to look at what they want from a royalty company investment. Whether you want that long term, seeing what the expiration is and going through that much longer term, or whether you want to see a royalty company that's bringing in revenue now. And that's where we want to get to. And we've got aggressive plans to get there in the next couple of months. Hopefully by the end of the year, that we're bringing in revenue. So 2022, we'll be having, a significant amount of revenue for a junior royalty company. And that's where you see the multiples as well. When you look across and, again, it's quite a competitive space and, it's right. How much time does an investor have to dig deep into all these companies? But, I think they've got to decide what their criteria is. We believe revenue is critical.
Well, I agree with you, but it's not the only model out there. There's lots of different models where people are perhaps doing the promote game, and that works quite well. Their multiples are off the charts. So that's why I ask you about, what your end game is here. Are you setting yourselves up to be taken out? Are you setting yourselves up for, some kind of conservative growth profile, or do you want to, get big and rich quick?
It's a tough one until you're actually in the situation to be taken out or something like that. That's not why we're building this. We're building this because we see the growth that we can do. We can see the kind of business model we can build here. We see the demand for it in the space. We see the need, not just in terms of the investors coming into a company, but what we can do to get mines into production. I mean, that's really what we're focused on. That's what I've always been focused on. That's what David's always been focused on, is getting companies into production. So this model allows us to do this. And again, on the smaller side of it. This repeat the model, invest in the companies, bring the revenue into Empress, grow that way by doing more deals, by bringing in more investments that have great returns and cash.
Okay, and then just finally, which is on the how you go about finding deals, because there are lots of companies, there's lots of competition, and some of them sometimes overpay, and sometimes create a situation where it would be foolish for you to step in and pay up for something. So it's got to be a bit more than our track record and experience, and we've got a bunch of contacts. I mean, how do you or indeed, waiting for that call from Scotiabank with a list of options for you and 10 other royalty companies to pitch for. So how do you think you're going to structure the company going forward to ensure that you do get the best access to all the deals that are out there? Because at that smaller end, very competitive.
Yeah, again, as I mentioned earlier, we're not a royalty trading company. We're not acquiring third-party royalties. So we haven't been in a competitive bidding process. We're not out there overpaying and trying to do a land grab. That's not our business model. We're working with the companies to create new royalty and streams that will make economic sense for us. So we know we're paying a fair price. But we also know it works for the mining companies, or it has to work for the mining companies in order for us to do it, because we obviously want them to be the best producer they possibly can. So it has to make economic sense for both sides.
No, I understand that. And sorry if there's a confusion, but again, I've been speaking to a few royalty companies this week. They all get called by all of the companies who need cash in whatever shape or form that comes. A dollar is a dollar. What you call it, what the terms are attached to it is another discussion. But they reach out to all available royalty companies to see what the best deal that they can get is. I'm saying, so how do those companies come to you and go, do you know what, these guys are going to offer us the best possible transaction?
Yeah, we do. We get the contact through like our info email accounts and those types of things, and we do look at those projects. But for us, where we're deploying our capital is through known management groups to us. So that's the difference there, is we're working with our network to source opportunities, and we're going after these companies, we're approaching them, we're working with groups known to us. So it's very much a network thing than a cold call. where we know that they're into all of it. And some investment banking firms are running that model where they're coming out to all the royalty companies and wanting everyone to bid. We're not getting into that bidding process.
Okay, and you operate where other people fear to tread. A little bit of that.
I don't know if I'd be that aggressive about it. I think we just have the opportunities through our relationships that we're able to get access to.
Okay, brilliant. Alexandra, thank you very much. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Nice.
Me too.
Yeah, there you go. Congratulations on one of the raise. Obviously, we kind of brushed over it a little bit, but that's done. I'm more interested in what you think the future looks like. You're looking up to the stars, or is this just a quick win scenario for you? So appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today, Matthew. And I'd love, the three key things and takeaways from Empress is we are a royalty creation company. We're new and we're young. We've got huge plans to grow this company out. And by investing in Empress, you're getting access to precious metals, and you're getting access to hopefully soon revenue and being able to get into a dividend policy. Thank you so much.